Keanu Reeves pushed open the heavy door of the martial arts studio. It was 11 p.m. The lights were dim. The place should have been closed. But someone was still inside. An elderly man, bent over, mopping the floors in silence. Keanu froze. He recognized the posture immediately. The way the man moved, deliberate, disciplined. Then the man turned. Their eyes met. Keanu's breath caught. Chen. The old man straightened slowly. A tired smile crossed his weathered face. Keanu. This was Chen Li, the man who taught Keanu Reeves everything he knew about stunts, the legendary choreographer behind some of Hollywood's greatest fight scenes, the mentor who turned Keanu into John Wick, and he was mopping floors at 80 years old. Keanu stood there, unable to move. 23 years of memories flooded back, the brutal training sessions, the life lessons disguised as combat techniques. The man who believed in him when he was nobody, now reduced to this, cleaning studios after midnight, alone, forgotten. But what Keanu didn't know yet was far worse. Chen wasn't just working late. He was hiding something. A sacrifice so profound it would shatter everything Keanu believed about loyalty and the cost of integrity. A betrayal that happened right under Keanu's nose. And a choice Chen made that would break your heart. 23 years earlier, Chen Li was at the top of his field. Every action star in Hollywood wanted to train with him. Jackie Chan called him the real deal. Directors flew him across continents. His signature move, the dragon sweep, became legendary. Stunt coordinators studied his work like scripture. That's when a young, struggling actor named Keanu Reeves walked into his Los Angeles studio. Keanu was nobody then, fresh off a few small roles, hungry, uncertain, broke. I want to do my own stunts. Keanu told him. Most instructors would have laughed. Actors didn't do real stunts back then. They had doubles, stand-ins, safety nets. But Chen studied him carefully, saw something different. Most actors want to look good, Chen said. You want to be good, that's rare. For 3 years, Chen trained Keanu personally. 6 a.m. sessions, 6 days a week. Brutal conditioning that left Keanu barely able to walk. Philosophy mixed with physicality. A stunt isn't about danger, Chen would say during breaks. It's about control. Master yourself first, the rest follows. Keanu absorbed everything, the discipline, the precision, the respect for the craft. He learned to fall without flinching, to fight without ego, to move like water. Chen never charged him full price. Pay what you can, he'd say. Your commitment is worth more than money. When The Matrix came calling in 1999, Keanu did something unusual. He insisted Chen choreograph the entire film, recommended him personally to the Wachowskis, fought for him when the studio wanted someone younger. Chen choreographed every fight scene, the dojo, the lobby, the subway. It changed cinema forever. But Chen refused to take credit publicly. The student's success is the teacher's reward. He told Keanu at the premiere. They stayed close after that. Weekly calls at first. Chen at every major premiere. Keanu visiting the studio whenever he was in LA. Then life accelerated. Keanu's career exploded. John Wick became a phenomenon. Back-to-back films. Tours, constant travel. The calls became monthly. Then every few months, then once a year. 7 years ago, they spoke for the last time. I'm retiring, Chen had said. Time to rest, enjoy life. Keanu remembered feeling relieved. Chen had earned his peace. Deserved to relax. You take care of yourself, Keanu told him. You too. Make me proud. That was it. 7 years of silence. Keanu assumed Chen was traveling, living comfortably somewhere warm, maybe teaching occasionally for fun. The image of a peaceful retirement. A master finally resting. He never imagined this. Standing in a dimly lit studio at midnight, watching his mentor, his teacher, his friend mopping floors, wearing worn-through shoes, moving with pain in every step. At 80 years old, Chen, Keanu finally said, his voice tight. What happened? Chen set the mop carefully against the wall. It's a long story. I've got time. They sat on the studio floor, backs against the mirror just like old times, and Chen began to speak. What he revealed would, what are you doing here? Chen? Keanu asked softly. Chen looked down at his hands, rough, calloused, trembling slightly. I work here now. Work? You own studios, you don't. Not anymore. The words hung in the air like smoke. Keanu noticed things he'd missed in the shock of recognition. Chen's shoes, worn completely through at the soles. Duct tape holding them together. His jacket, thin and frayed, despite the cold February night. The way he winced when he straightened his back. Dark circles under his eyes. Hands that shook when he wasn't gripping something. Sit down, Keanu said gently. Please. They sat cross-legged on the studio floor. The same floor where Chen had once taught Keanu to fall without fear. Now it felt different. Colder. Chen spoke quietly, his voice steady but distant. 5 years ago, his daughter fell ill. Ovarian cancer. Stage 3, the diagnosis came suddenly. One day she was healthy, the next, fighting for her life. The treatments. Chen paused. They weren't covered by insurance. Experimental protocols. Clinical trials. He sold his first studio, then the second, then his house in the hills overlooking the city. Every royalty check from film sequences. Every piece of training equipment he'd collected over 40 years. The awards. The memorabilia. Everything. I liquidated it all. Chen said simply. 40 years of work, gone in 18 months. But she survived, against all odds. The treatments worked. She went into remission. She's alive, Chen said, and for a moment his face lit up. Healthy. Working as a nurse in Boston now, helping others. But you're left with nothing. Chen's smile faded. I'm left with everything that matters. She's breathing, laughing, living. Shen, you're mopping floors at 80 years old. I'm still moving, still working, still useful. He said it with such dignity that Keanu felt his throat tighten. This man had shaped his entire career, had taught him not just how to move, but how to be, had asked for nothing in return, never bragged, never demanded credit, and Keanu hadn't even known he was struggling. Why didn't you call me? Keanu asked, his voice cracking. You were busy. I saw the news. John Wick 4, 5, all those films. You had your own life. You're part of my life, Chen. You always were. Chen looked away. I didn't want to be a burden. The words cut deeper than any punch Keanu had ever taken. He stood and walked to the corner of the studio. That's when he saw them, cardboard boxes, stacked nearly to the ceiling, dozens of them. What's all this? Chen's expression changed, something between pride and sadness. 40 years of work, he said quietly. Keanu opened the nearest box. Inside were notebooks, hundreds of them, hand-drawn diagrams of fight choreography, detailed notes in 3 languages, English, Mandarin, and what looked like classical Chinese, philosophical writings about movement and discipline, training methodologies, sequences from films Keanu recognized, and many he didn't. This is incredible, Keanu whispered, flipping through the pages. Every page was a masterclass. Techniques no one had ever seen publicly. The evolution of stunts over 4 decades. Training philosophies that blended martial arts with psychology, physics, even poetry. Shen, why haven't you published these? This is... He couldn't find the words. Who would care about an old man's notebooks? Chen asked. The industry moved on. They want CGI now, green screens, computer-generated fights, wire work and pixels, he continued, standing slowly. They don't want real choreography anymore. They want spectacle. Keanu kept reading. One page detailed the exact sequence from the Matrix lobby scene, every move, every timing, the philosophy behind it. Another showed the evolution of the John Wick gunfa style. Chen had sketched it out years before the first film. You showed me these techniques, Keanu said, stunned. I showed you everything I knew, Chen replied. That was my job. Keanu found notes dated just months ago, new techniques, new ideas, even now, struggling to survive. Chen was still creating, still innovating, still teaching. How many students do you have here? The studio owner lets me teach a few classes, mostly kids who can't afford the expensive gyms downtown. What does he pay you? Chen hesitated. Enough. Shen. Minimum wage. And I clean after hours to cover the difference. Keanu's hands clenched into fists. His mentor, his teacher. The man who'd built the foundation for modern action cinema, scrubbing floors for minimum wage. There's something else, Chen said quietly. He pulled out a worn folder from beneath the boxes. Inside were documents, official letters, contracts, legal papers. 3 years ago, someone made me an offer. Keanu looked up. What kind of offer? Chen's face hardened. The kind that would have solved everything, and cost me everything else. Keanu took the folder from Chen's trembling hands. The documents inside were pristine, professionally printed. Legal letterhead, corporate seals. The top page made his blood run cold. Atlas Entertainment Group, acquisition proposal. One of Hollywood's largest studio conglomerates. They approached me 3 years ago. Chen began. His voice was different now. Flatter, more distant. Like he was recounting someone else's story. 2 executives. Expensive suits. They took me to lunch at Nobu. Chen laughed bitterly. I couldn't afford the appetizers there, but they ordered everything. Made it seem generous. They told him they'd been watching his career, studying his influence. They called him a legend, an untapped resource, they said. Then they made their offer, $2 million for everything, every notebook, every technique, every sequence. 40 years of accumulated knowledge. Keanu's hands shook as he read the contract terms. Chen, this would have solved everything. I know. $2 million would have covered his daughter's remaining treatments. Would have bought him security, dignity, rest. Why didn't you take it? Chen stood and walked to the window. Outside, Los Angeles glittered with broken promises. Read page 7, he said quietly. Keanu flipped through the document, found the clause, read it once, then again, unable to believe it. Seller acknowledges that all intellectual property, techniques, methodologies, and associated credits shall be transferred in perpetuity to Atlas Entertainment Group. Seller agrees to have had no primary involvement in the development of said techniques and waives all rights to future attribution or recognition. Keanu looked up, horrified. They wanted you to say you didn't create your own work. They wanted to erase me. Chen corrected, completely. The executives had explained it simply. Chen was too old for modern branding. His name didn't test well with younger demographics. The techniques would be repackaged under their corporate training program, taught by younger, more marketable instructors. Chen's name would never be mentioned. They told me I should be grateful, Chen said, his voice hardening. That someone still cared about legacy techniques at all. One executive had leaned in close, smiled, said, "Let's be honest, Chen. You're forgotten. This is your last chance to matter." Chen had sat there, silent, staring at the contract, $2 million, his daughter's life, his own survival. All he had to do was sign. I picked up the pen, Chen admitted. Keanu's chest tightened. I held it over the signature line. My hand was shaking. I thought about my daughter, the hospital bills, how tired I was. What stopped you? Chen turned from the window. His eyes were clear now, fierce. I thought about my teacher. Master Wang, he died poor, unknown, but he never compromised. He told me once a technique without honor is just violence. A master without integrity is just a bully. Chen had set down the pen, stood up, bowed politely, and walked out. The executives called after him, threatened him, said he'd regret this, that he'd die alone and forgotten. Chen never looked back. I chose poverty over betrayal, he said simply. These techniques aren't just mine. They belong to my teachers, to the lineage, to every student who trusted me. He paused. If I sold them like that, I'd be spitting on everyone who came before me. Keanu felt something break inside his chest. Chen had chosen dignity over survival, had chosen his principles over his own life. But there's more, Chen said. He pulled out another document. This one made Keanu's world stop. It was a letter, on familiar letterhead, CIA Creative Artists Agency, Keanu's own agency. Dated 2 years ago, the letter was addressed to Chen. Keanu read it slowly, his vision blurring. Dear Mr. Lee, after careful consideration, we must advise that Mr. Reeves' current career trajectory requires a more contemporary approach to training and choreography. While we respect your historical contributions, modern action cinema demands different methodologies. We recommend you cease attempts to contact Mr. Reeves directly. All professional inquiries should be directed through our office, where they will be evaluated for relevance. Mr. Reeves is committed to forward-thinking collaborations and cannot be distracted by nostalgia projects. Sincerely, Marcus Webb, Senior Partner. Keanu's hands were shaking so hard he nearly dropped the paper. Shen, I never saw this. I know. Chen's voice was gentle. That's why I never told you. They blocked you from reaching me. For 2 years. Every email filtered. Every call redirected. They called it managing your brand. Chen had tried everything. Called the agency directly. Sent messages through mutual contacts. Even showed up at Keanu's old studio once. Security turned him away. Mr. Reeves is unavailable, they'd said. For 2 years Chen had reached out. For 2 years he was invisible. And Keanu never knew. I don't blame you, Chen said quickly. You were working. Building something great. I understood. But Keanu didn't understand. The people he trusted. The agency he'd been with for 15 years. They'd cut him off from the man who'd made his career possible, and called it protection. There's one more thing, Chen said quietly. He reached into his jacket, pulled out a small notebook, older than the others. The cover was worn leather, barely holding together. This is my teacher's journal. Master Wang's. He gave it to me before he died. Chen opened it carefully. Inside on the first page was a list of names. A lineage going back 200 years. Every master who'd passed down these techniques. Chen's finger traced down to the second to last name, Wang Fei Chen. Below it, in Chen's handwriting, Li Chen below that. Blank space. I was supposed to pass this on, Chen whispered. To someone worthy, someone who understood what this meant. He looked at Keanu. But I failed. I have no successor, no one to carry this forward. Tears rolled down his weathered face. When I die, 200 years of knowledge dies with me. What would you do if you discovered the people you trusted had cut you off from someone who needed you most? Keanu stood there, the weight of everything crashing down. His mentor, broken and forgotten. Betrayed by an industry he'd helped build. Blocked by the very people supposed to protect Keanu. But what Keanu did next would shock everyone. And it started with 2 words. Not anymore. Keanu's voice was quiet. Too quiet. The kind of quiet that comes before an explosion. Show me your hands, Chen. Chen hesitated. Pulled them back instinctively. Shen. Show me. Slowly, reluctantly, Chen extended his hands. They were destroyed. Knuckles swollen to twice their normal size. Fingers bent at unnatural angles. Scars crisscrossing the palms. Keanu had seen enough injuries to recognize it immediately. Advanced arthritis. Severe. Untreated. How long? 4 years. And you're still training people. Still mopping floors. I have to work, Keanu. No. Keanu's voice cracked. You need treatment, surgery, physical therapy. Not this. Chen pulled his hands back, tucked them into his sleeves like he was ashamed. The studio owner here, his name is Derek. He's young, ambitious, doesn't pay much. How much? $15 an hour. Keanu closed his eyes. $15 an hour. For a man who'd revolutionized action cinema. But he lets me teach. Chen continued. A few classes a week. That's worth more than money. What kind of classes? Kids mostly. Teenagers who can't afford the fancy gyms in Beverly Hills or Santa Monica. Chen's face softened. Their parents work 2 jobs, 3 jobs. They drop them off here because it's safe. Because I don't charge much. You're training the next generation for minimum wage while you can barely hold a mop. They need someone who cares. Chen said simply. His voice carried a conviction that cut through everything. Most instructors now just want Instagram followers. Viral videos. They teach flashy moves that look good on camera but have no foundation. These kids, they need real teaching. Discipline. Purpose. Something to believe in. Keanu stood and paced. His mind was racing. Everything was clicking into place now. The worn shoes, because Chen spent his money on equipment for students. The night shifts. Because he taught during the day and cleaned at night. The hidden notebooks, because he still believed they mattered. Even when no one else did. Chen had given everything to everyone else, and kept nothing for himself, not even his health. There's one student in particular, Chen said. His voice lifted slightly. Marcus. 15 years old, came from a difficult family. Father in prison, mother struggling with addiction. He walked in here 6 months ago, angry, looking for a fight. Wanted to learn how to hurt people. Keanu stopped pacing. What did you do? I taught him the opposite. How to control himself. How to channel anger into discipline. Chen smiled for the first time that night. A real smile. Last week, he got accepted into a performing arts high school. Full scholarship. They want him for their dance and stage combat program. He told me. Chen's voice broke. He told me I saved his life. Keanu felt something crack inside his chest. This man, broken, forgotten, struggling to survive, was still changing lives, still giving, still teaching, still believing. While the industry he'd helped build had completely abandoned him. While the executives he'd trained had become millionaires. While the films that used his techniques made billions. Chen Li mopped floors at midnight. Taught kids for $15 an hour. And considered himself lucky. Where's your daughter now? Keanu asked quietly. Boston. She's been in remission for 2 years. Works at Mass General. Pediatric oncology. Taking care of kids like she was taken care of. Keanu said. Exactly. Does she know you're living like this? Chen shook his head firmly. When she finished treatment, she wanted to drop out of nursing school. Move back to LA, help me. I told her I was fine, that I had savings, that I was teaching by choice, not necessity. You lied to her. I protected her. Chen corrected sharply. Just like you protected people in your movies. Just like I protected my students. Sometimes love looks like sacrifice. He stood, wincing as his knees cracked. She sends me money every month. I put it in an account. Never touch it. When she gets married, buys a house, has children, she'll need it. Shen, that's what fathers do, Keanu. We carry the weight so our children can fly. Keanu walked to the window. Outside. Los Angeles spread out like a glittering lie. Somewhere in that city were the studios that had made billions from Chen's work. The executives who'd offered him pennies for his legacy. The actors who'd built careers on choreography Chen designed. The agency that had blocked him from reaching out, all of them sleeping comfortably, while Chen Li, 80 years old, with broken hands and an unbreakable spirit, mopped floors alone, forgotten, invisible, discarded. Keanu turned back. His face was set with a determination Chen had only seen once before, 23 years ago, when a young actor had walked into his studio and said, "I want to be real." "Chen," Keanu said slowly, "what if I told you that everything is about to change?" Chen smiled sadly, the same smile he'd given the Atlas executives. "Keanu, I don't need charity, I'm fine." "Really? Not about charity?" Keanu interrupted. His voice was steel now. "About what's right." He pulled out his phone, made a call. "Marcus Webb." Now, Chen's eyes widened. The agency. Keanu's face was cold. "You're fired. Don't call back. My lawyer will contact you about the contract termination." He hung up, made another call. "This is Keanu Reeves. I need the legal team. Full team. Tonight." Another call. "Get me a publicist. Not CA. Someone independent, someone hungry." When he finished, he looked at Chen. "We're leaving." "What?" "Keanu, where?" "Anywhere but here. Tonight. Right now. I have a shift." "Derek expects." "Not anymore." Keanu picked up the cardboard boxes, started carrying them toward the door. "What are you doing?" "Taking back what they stole." Chen stood frozen. "They didn't steal anything." "I'm still here. They stole your story," Keanu said. "They stole your credit, your recognition, your legacy. But that ends tonight. If you believe real heroes aren't just in movies, but in the teachers who shape them, keep watching." What Keanu did next would shock the entire film industry, and it started with one decision that would change everything. 3 days later, something unusual appeared on Keanu Reeves' Instagram, a video shot simply on an iPhone, no fancy production, no filters or effects. Just Keanu, sitting in a bare room across from Chen, natural light through a window, 2 men, 2 chairs. The caption was simple, the truth. The video began. "This is Chen Li," Keanu said to the camera. His voice was steady but intense. "He's the reason John Wick exists. The reason Neo could fight. The reason you believe action on screen." The camera stayed on Chen's weathered face. He looked uncomfortable, uncertain. "He taught me everything," Keanu continued. "How to fall without fear. How to fight with purpose. How to move like I meant it. 3 days ago I found him mopping floors at 80 years old. Pause. Working for minimum wage. With arthritis so severe he can barely hold the mop. Forgotten by an industry he helped build." Chen tried to speak. Keanu gently raised a hand. "Hollywood made billions from this man's work, and left him with nothing. That changes today." The video went viral in 2 hours, 4 million views by morning. News outlets picked it up within 6 hours. TMZ, Variety, Hollywood Reporter, CNN ran a segment. The comments flooded in. "This is heartbreaking. The industry should be ashamed. Keanu is a real one. Where can we help?" But Keanu wasn't reading comments. He was making calls. Dozens of them. That afternoon he held a press conference. No studio backing, no corporate sponsors. Just him, standing at a podium. "I'm announcing the creation of the Chen Li Foundation," he began. Cameras flashed. A non-profit organization dedicated to supporting retired stunt coordinators, martial arts choreographers, and the forgotten masters of our industry. He outlined the mission. Healthcare and medical support for aging professionals, financial assistance for those in need, preservation of martial arts and stunt history, publication of technique archives and training methodologies. "I'm personally funding the foundation with an initial investment of $5 million. The room erupted with questions. Keanu ignored them. "But money isn't enough. This is about recognition. About remembering the people who made us possible." Chen Li's complete life work, 40 years of notebooks, techniques, and philosophy, will be published as a comprehensive series, available to film schools, stunt programs, and anyone who wants to learn real craft. He looked directly into the cameras, and every person who's ever worked with Chen, learned from him, or built their career on his foundation, I'm asking you to step up. Not for me. For him. For everyone like him. The press conference ended. Within 24 hours the response was overwhelming. Jackie Chan was first. A video message. "Chen Li taught me humility. I donate $1 million. The Wachowskis released a joint statement. The Matrix would not exist without Chen's vision. We're matching all donations up to $2 million. Hal buried $500,000, Tom Cruise $750,000, Charlize Theron $500,000, Every action star Chen had ever influenced contributed: directors, producers, stunt coordinators. The fund hit 12 million in 5 days, the 20 million in 12 days, but the real change was happening quietly, away from cameras. Keanu had rented a 5,000 square foot studio space in Burbank, professional grade, state-of-the-art equipment, the kind Chen had never been able to afford. He hired a team. 3 physical therapists specializing in arthritis and mobility, 2 documentary filmmakers to record Chen's teachings, a publishing team from a major academic press, an archivist to digitize and preserve the notebooks. On the 13th day, Keanu picked up Chen, drove him to the new location. Chen walked in and stopped, his mouth open but no sound came. The space was perfect: training mats, proper lighting, mirrors, equipment. But that wasn't what made him freeze. Sitting in rows, waiting nervously, were 15 teenagers. Marcus stood at the front. Behind him, the others Chen had been teaching. The kids who couldn't afford fancy gyms. The ones everyone else had written off. "What is this?" Chen whispered. Keanu smiled. "Your real retirement. You train the next generation properly. We handle everything else. Medical care is covered. Equipment is covered. Space is covered. Your daughter's future is covered. You just teach." Chen's legs went weak. Keanu caught him. I can't accept." "You already did," Keanu said gently, 23 years ago, when you trained a nobody actor who couldn't pay full price. "This isn't charity, Chen. It's balance." Marcus stepped forward. His voice cracked with emotion. "Master Chen, we all voted. All of us." He gestured to the other students. "We want to learn from you. Not from some YouTube instructor. Not from some guy with 1 million followers. From you." Another student spoke up, a girl, maybe 16. "You're the only teacher who ever saw us. Really saw us. Who cared about why we were here, not just what we could pay." One by one, the students spoke, each one sharing what Chen had meant to them. The discipline he'd taught. The confidence he'd built. The futures he'd made possible. Chen looked around the room, at the equipment he'd dreamed of but never owned, at the students who actually wanted real training, at Keanu who'd never forgotten. Tears rolled down his face. "Okay," he whispered. Then louder, his voice strengthening. "Okay." The room erupted. Students cheering, Keanu smiling. Chen stood straighter than he had in years. His hands still hurt. His body still ached. But something had shifted. He wasn't invisible anymore. He wasn't forgotten. He was home. But Keanu had one more surprise. Something that would complete the circle. Something that would ensure Chen's legacy lived forever. A true respect isn't given. It's earned. And finally returned. What happened next brought everything full circle. 6 months later, Barnes & Noble's Fifth Avenue flagship store in New York was packed. Over 800 people lined up around the block: film students, stunt coordinators, martial artists, actors. They were there for a book signing, The Dragon's Way: 40 Years of Martial Arts Cinema, by Chen Li, the first volume of his complete life's work. It had launched 2 weeks earlier and immediately hit the bestseller list. Number 3 on the New York Times nonfiction chart. Film schools from UCLA to NYU added it to their required curriculum. The American Film Institute called it essential reading. Stunt coordinators called it the Bible we've been waiting for. But Chen wasn't in New York. He was exactly where he wanted to be, in the Burbank studio, teaching. His daughter had flown in from Boston the month before. She'd walked into the studio unannounced. Keanu had arranged it. Chen was mid-demonstration, showing Marcus the proper way to execute a precision fall. The impact distributes through the shoulder, see? Never the spine. You roll with, Dad. Chen froze, turned. His daughter stood in the doorway. She looked around slowly, at the professional equipment, at the dedicated students watching her father with reverence, at the physical therapy room visible through glass walls, at Chen himself, healthier than she'd seen him in 5 years. She walked straight to him, looked him in the eyes, and burst into tears. "You told me you were fine," she said. "You lied." Chen's face crumbled. "I didn't want you to worry. You were healing, building your career." "I'm your daughter," she interrupted. "You carried me through cancer. You sold everything, and then you suffered alone." She turned to Keanu, who'd been standing quietly in the corner. "You gave me my father back," she whispered. Keanu shook his head. "I just reminded the world he was here. He never left." She hugged Chen for a long time. The students stood respectfully silent. Marcus wiped his eyes. When she finally pulled back, she looked at the class. "Can I watch?" Chen smiled. "Always." She stayed for 3 hours, Watched her father teach with passion she hadn't seen in years. Saw students hanging on his every word. Witnessed the respect, the dedication, the love in that room. Later, over dinner, she told him about a patient, a 7-year-old girl with leukemia. She asked me how I stayed strong during treatment. His daughter said, I told her about my father, about sacrifice, about choosing integrity over comfort. She reached across the table and took his scared, arthritic hands. You didn't just save my life, Dad. You taught me how to live it. Chen couldn't speak, could only nod. Today, Chenli trains 6 days a week. His arthritis is managed with proper treatment, stem cell therapy, specialized physical therapy, the best care available. His notebooks are being preserved digitally and published in an 8-volume series. Volume 2 releases next month. The foundation supports 43 retired stunt professionals, medical bills paid, housing secured, dignity restored. And every month the fund grows. Marcus got accepted to Juilliard, full scholarship. He still trains with Chen every summer. You're my real education, he told Chen last visit. The studio now teaches over 60 students, a waiting list of 200 more. But Chen keeps the prices low. The kids who need this most can't afford luxury prices. He insists. The foundation covers the difference. But perhaps the most important moment came quietly. Last Tuesday, Chen sat in his small apartment, modest but comfortable now, paid for by the foundation. He opened Master Wang's journal, the lineage list, traced his finger down to his own name, Li Chen. Below it he wrote carefully, despite his aching hands, Marcus Chen Williams, his first true successor, a kid who'd walked in angry and lost, who'd found purpose through discipline, who'd carry the lineage forward, 200 years of knowledge, preserved, passed on, alive. Chen closed the journal and smiled. He thought about Keanu, about the night in the studio, about how one person remembering can change everything. In a recent interview, a journalist asked Keanu, "Why did you do all this? The foundation must cost millions." Keanu's answer was simple. "Shen taught me that a stunt isn't about the fall. It's about knowing someone will catch you." He paused. "He caught me when I was falling 23 years ago. I just returned the favor." The journalist pressed. "But the money, the time, the effort, isn't about money." Keanu interrupted gently. "It's about seeing people, really seeing them." Chen was invisible because people chose not to look. "I'm just making sure they can't look away anymore."